Imagine the world in the mid-1970s. Space agencies are launching probes, the Cold War defines global geopolitics, and Japan has transformed into a high-tech economic powerhouse. But deep in the Philippine jungle, one man was living in a different century. To him, the year was still 1945, and World War II was a daily life-and-death struggle. This was Hiroo Onoda. In 1944, the 22-year-old was deployed as an intelligence officer for the Imperial Japanese Army, beginning a mission that would outlast the war itself. Onoda was a product of a military culture that viewed surrender as the ultimate disgrace. In the Imperial Army, dying for the emperor was a requirement, and being captured alive was an unthinkable failure. His theater was Lubang Island, a rugged, isolated stretch of Philippine jungle. His task was to lead guerrilla operations, sabotaging the enemy and surviving at any cost. Before his unit moved out, Major Akira Muto gave him a specific command. He told Onoda, "You are absolutely forbidden to die by your own hand." He promised him that whether it took 3 years or 5, the army would eventually return for him. To Onoda, a direct order from a superior officer was an objective truth. He had been told the army would return, and he committed himself to being there to meet them when they did. In August 1945, the war reached a sudden, violent conclusion after the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On September 2nd, the Japanese government formally signed the surrender documents. For the rest of the world, the fighting was over, but reaching isolated soldiers in the era before satellite communication was nearly impossible. Without radios or reliable couriers, men like Onoda were left in a complete information vacuum, waiting for a signal that would never come. Late in 1945, planes dropped surrender leaflets over Lubang. The message was clear: the war had ended. Come down from the mountains. But Onoda studied the paper closely. He found tiny printing errors and out-of-place freezing for a Japanese military document. Because his reality held that Japan could never surrender, he viewed these flaws as evidence. He decided the leaflets were American forgeries, a psychological trap designed to lure him into an ambush. This dismissal created a blueprint for the next 3 decades. Onoda moved his squad deeper into the interior, viewing the local villagers not as civilians but as enemy spies helping the Americans. In 1952, the effort to reach him became personal. Planes dropped letters written by Onoda's own brother, accompanied by recent family photographs. Onoda looked at the pictures, but something was wrong. He didn't recognize the houses or the streets in the background. He had no way of knowing that his hometown had been destroyed by firebombing and entirely rebuilt. He concluded that the Americans must have captured his family, forcing them to pose in front of fake sets to create the illusion of a peaceful, post-war Japan. His commitment to this belief had fatal consequences. As the years passed, one of his men deserted, and the others were killed in skirmishes with local police. Eventually, Onoda was the only soldier left on the island. 20 years into his isolation, Onoda stole a transistor radio. He hoped to intercept military broadcasts to track the progress of the Japanese counteroffensive. Instead, he heard news of a booming economy, the Tokyo Olympics, and a Japanese-American alliance. The broadcasts described a world of space travel and international cooperation. Onoda viewed the world through a single narrow lens. If the radio claimed Japan was now a prosperous American ally, then the radio was a fake, a sophisticated propaganda tool used by the enemy to break his spirit. In 1974, a young explorer named Norio Suzuki set out with a specific goal: to find the ghost soldier of Lubang. Incredibly, he tracked Onoda down in just 4 days. Suzuki didn't lead with logic or documents. He spoke Japanese, wore thick wool socks with sandals, and approached Onoda with respect. He proved he was a fellow countryman, not a military threat. Suzuki realized that no amount of proof would convince Onoda the war was over. To reach him, he had to follow the rigid protocols of Onoda's world. If Onoda was waiting for an order, Suzuki would have to go and find the man who gave it. Suzuki kept his word. He returned to the jungle with Major Muto, the same officer who had sent Onoda into the trees 30 years earlier. Muto, now a retired civilian, formally rescinded the original order. After 10,000 days of holding his position, Lieutenant Onoda finally laid down his rifle and surrendered his sword. His return sparked a massive media spectacle. The Japanese public looked at Onoda and saw a man who had stepped out of a time capsule, still carrying the rigid values of a country that had ceased to exist decades prior. The contrast was jarring. The traditional empire he had fought for was gone, replaced by a hyper-modern, westernized society that he no longer recognized. Finding modern Tokyo unbearable, Onoda moved to Brazil to farm cattle, only returning to Japan years later to open a survival school for children. He died in 2014 at the age of 91. His life serves as a remarkable study in resilience, but also a sober warning about the power of a belief so strong that it can rewrite the